evening. Let's go ahead. Let's grab our Bibles. You can be seated. Sorry. I didn't say that, did I? You can stay standing the whole time if you want to, and we'll be in this thing together. But all right. But if you got your Bibles, let's go ahead and be turning to the book of Psalms this evening. The book of Psalms in chapter number 91. Psalms chapter number 91. And if you listen fast this evening, I'll preach fast. That way we can go ahead and get into the business meeting this evening. But Psalms chapter number 91, and we'll begin in verse number 1. So Psalm 91 and verse number 1, the Bible says this: He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler and from the noisome pestilence. He shall cover thee with his feathers, and under his wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand, but it shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked. Because thou hast made the Lord, which is my refuge, even the Most High, thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. Let's pray this evening. Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, again for everything you've done for us. And God, we thank you for, Lord, just our church family. And God, we do pray for all these prayer requests, Lord, even the ones that weren't mentioned. God, we pray that you just have your will and your way in each and every single one of those. And God, we do pray that this evening, Lord, as we get into your word again, Lord, you'd hide me behind the cross and empty me of myself and fill me with your spirit. And God, I pray, Lord, you give me the exact words that we stand in need of. Help me say exactly what you'd have me to say, nothing more, nothing less. And God, prepare the hearts and the minds of your people to receive your word this evening, God, that we could take it, Lord, in whatever situation we're going through, whether it be a good or hard time. God, that you just help us with it, Lord, and we'll be careful to give you all the honor and all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And now as we look at Psalm 91, there's two different writers that many believe. If you look at what Charles Spurgeon, who he thought wrote it, he believed Moses wrote it. But if you look at Matthew Henry believed David wrote it. And I think you can make a case for either one of them. And the reason Charles Spurgeon believed that Moses wrote Psalm 91 was because Moses was the one who wrote Psalm 90. So that was Spurgeon's whole thing with it. But understand the Psalms are not in chronological order. They're just compiled together. So the Psalms, there's a bunch of different writers. You've got the sons of Korah, you've got David, you've got Moses, and even some others that have some Psalms within the book of Psalms. But I think as you look at both of these, you can definitely look and see that either one of them, it would fit their life as you read through this psalm. I mean, David, we looked at Goliath this morning. Don't you think David seen God as his fortress and his mighty tower, and somebody was protecting him, going out and fighting Goliath? Sure. But if you look at Moses, don't you think that Moses had God as a fortress and as a protector, even in Moses' life? So either one of them, you could look at their lives and say, either one of them could have wrote it. Now, we won't know. And whenever we get to heaven, I'll be honest with you, I don't think we'll really care who wrote Psalm 91. But even as we look at our lives this evening, I think we can all look and say the same thing that the psalmist did. There's been times that God protected me, that I couldn't protect myself, that God was the one who protected me. But tonight, my attention really gets brought to the third word there in verse number 1. And as you read this psalm, it says, He that dwelleth. Now, that means to make a habitation. I mean, this is where you're going to live. This is where you're going to be comfortable at. There's been some times that I went to a big city that I was not comfortable in that habitation. And I just wasn't comfortable in it. I said, many of you probably aren't comfortable in a big city as well. I don't even know how y'all live in Harrisonburg. I can't do it, especially whenever you get down to the fall and going in Harrisonburg on football game days. I can't do it. I love people, but not that many people whenever it comes to that. But then you got the whole smell of county going on right now. Y'all know what I'm talking about. That's you get used to it. It don't bother you anymore. But it's a habitation. It's where you're dwelling at. It's where you're living at. And as we're looking at the psalmist tonight, understand we're not talking about this is somebody who needs to get saved. We're talking about somebody that already is saved. And whenever you get saved, yes, you've got a relationship with God. But understand, you can get as close to God as what you want to. That's how the relationship with God works. Remember what James 4:8 says? Draw Those are benefits we get from just being saved. Because if all God did was save us, then he's already done enough for us. I mean, he's done more than enough if all he did was save us. But now, as we look at this, we're going to see some benefits here in Psalm 91 and just a couple of verses here that shows us that there are benefits about dwelling with the Lord. I mean, being in close presence with God, walking with him, and just living in that habitation with the Lord. So tonight we're just going to look at this, the benefits of dwelling with the Lord. Number one, understand this is the first one we're going to look at is how we get into more of that close walk with the Lord. Now notice this. Look at verse 1 again. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Now this caught my eye, and maybe it caught yours as well, and that's the term, the secret place. Now, I think what the psalmist is referring to here is probably the most holy place. Not the holy place, but the most holy place. The one that nobody else could enter into except for the high priest, and that was only one time a year. And that's where the presence of God dwelt in the tabernacle, and we've looked at that a lot here in the beginning part of this year, just through the Bible reading plan and everything, about going in there and having the presence of God there on the Ark of the Covenant, the mercy seat, and that's where the presence of God dwelt. Now, why would that be called a secret place? Well, did anybody else know what was back there really, other than just the furniture and everything? No. But who did? Only one person, the high priest. It was a secret place because that's where God's presence dwelt. Now, for us, whenever I see the secret place, aren't you thankful that we live in a completely different time and a completely different dispensational period, that we don't have to go to a priest, we don't have to go to anybody else for them to go into the secret place, but you and I tonight, we can go straight into the secret place ourselves. So whenever I'm seeing the secret place this evening, I'm seeing one word, and that is prayer. That's our prayer. Hebrews chapter 4, verse number 16 says, "Let us therefore come boldly into the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in a time of need." I'm thankful tonight that we don't have to wonder if we can go to the Lord in prayer. We don't have to question it, but instead we can go boldly of understanding God has saved me. Jesus has washed me by his blood. I can go boldly into the most holy place and enter straight into the throne of grace and lay my requests down at God and know that whenever I lay those requests down at the Lord, he cares for me. Isn't that what Peter said? He said, casting all your care upon him, for he cares for you. And we can come boldly into that secret place. But turn with me to Matthew chapter number 6, and I'll show you why. Whenever I see the secret place, this is really why I look at prayer here in the secret place. Matthew chapter number 6, and look at verse number 1. Matthew chapter number 6, and look right there at verse number 1, and we'll go down to verse number 6. But Matthew 6 and verse number 1 says this, "Take heed that ye do not your alms before men to be seen of them, otherwise ye have no reward of your Father which is in heaven. Therefore, when thou doest thine alms, do not sound a trumpet before thee, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may have glory of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou doest alms, let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth, that thine alms may be in what? In secret. And thy Father which seeth where? In secret shall reward thee openly." But then it goes on, verse number 5. "And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But when thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to the Father which is in secret, and thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." You know what we call that prayer closet? That's your secret place. That's your place where you get alone with the Lord. Now, I've seen people do this on Facebook, and it always cracks me up because we see that it's talking about a secret place. Yeah, I think we can all agree on that, right? That's talking about your secret place, your prayer place where you go to get alone with the Lord. I'll see somebody take a selfie up on top of the mountain and say, "Well, pray into my secret place." It ain't a secret no more. You've done broadcasted it to the whole world. kitchen table. I mean, your secret place can be anywhere, but make sure you have you a place. And it doesn't necessarily matter what the place is or where the place is. What matters is that you have a place where you are getting alone with the Lord. Because if we're ever going to have a public life for God, I mean, everybody can put on a show, right? I mean, we can all dress right, we can say the things, and we can do all that. But if we're ever actually going to have a public life for God and live right in the public life for God, guess what's going to have to happen? You're going to have a time of a private life with the Lord. Because if you get a private life with God, guess what's going to happen? It's going to spill over into that public life. You see, if you want to dwell with God, you first got to get into that secret place. And one of the greatest ways to do that is to get into your prayer closet. Understand, we don't go and get alone with God, and you shouldn't go and get alone with God so that you can walk around and say, look at me. Look at how good I am. Look at everything that I do. Look at the power of God that I have on my life. That's not why you do it. What did the Bible just say? Is the hypocrites are standing in the corners of the streets and the synagogues, and they're praying. They're doing their alms before me, and they're giving so that everybody else can see. What did Jesus just say? They have their reward. You know what their reward is? Everybody else down here saying, good job. But you want to know what our reward should be, or what we should want our reward to be? It's not everybody down here saying good job, but him up there saying good job. And I want to bless you for that. That should be where our desire is. Now, we all like being encouraged. Don't get me wrong. We like that. But I'd much rather get the reward from God than the reward from man. And this is talking about getting into that secret place of dwelling with the Lord and being with God. And prayer is one of the best things for you and I, and along with reading the Bible. Somebody asked, which one's more important? Well, which one's more important, breathing in or breathing out? I mean, that's the question. Is your Bible or prayer more important? No, it's just dwelling with the Lord, of praying with God. And here's the thing about prayer that I think we get it mixed up a lot of times is we think that we've got to have it all figured out. I've heard people say, well, I can't pray like everybody else can. You see, I think we've got a messed up view about what prayer is. Prayer is not, I've got this big list of a lot of big words and all these different things, and I've got all my theology correct and everything that I'm going through the Lord. That's not what prayer is. Prayer is going to God and talking to God like you're talking to a friend and a father that you're going to and saying, God, it's me again. Here I am. I know, Lord, that you see what's going on. That's my prayer a lot of times. God, you already know. And I'm just giving you a recap of what I know now. God, you already know. But here's what's going on. Or else your prayer can just be, God, thank you for another day. I mean, this morning, thank God for the rain. Just going to him and thanking him for what he's done for us. But still, yet, we don't have to have it all figured out. I don't know if you've ever been at this place in your prayer life or it's just me, but have you ever felt the urge to pray, but you didn't know what to say? I mean, just the burden and the weight of whatever it is that you're carrying is just so heavy. You're saying, I don't even know what to say. Well, look with me at Romans chapter number 8. Look at Romans chapter number 8. And look what happens here in verse number 26 and 27 of Romans chapter number 8. The Bible says this, verse number 26. It says, likewise the Spirit also helpeth our infirmities, for we know not what we should pray for as we ought, but the Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. And he that searcheth the hearts knoweth what is the mind of the Spirit, because he maketh intercession for the saints. And here's the best part, according to the will of God. There's a lot of times I've prayed that I probably missed the will of God praying. But you go to the Lord in that spirit of prayer, and the Spirit begins to pray on your behalf, guess what he's going to do? He's not going to pray outside of the will of God. What did James tell us? I believe it's in James chapter, I can't remember, it's 1 or chapter number 2. But it says that we go and we ask, and upon our unlust, and we ask amiss. And he also went on to say, you have not because you ask not. But then sometimes we don't get it because we're asking for the wrong reason. We're asking that God would it glorify me instead of God let this glorify you, that you get all the glory. Because a lot of times we want something for ourselves instead of wanting something to glorify God with. And then we're questioning, God, why don't I get this thing? Because you're wanting to glorify yourself, and it's the same thing that they were doing whenever they were praying in the street corners. You might not be praying in the street corners, but they were doing it to glorify themselves, and now we're praying and asking God to give us something that then it glorifies our presence. Look back at chapter number 91 of the book of Psalms. Look back here at Psalms 91, and let's look at the presence of God. The presence of God. Now, verse number 1 still says this. It says, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide, and that just literally means to dwell, to abide in, abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Now, if you're going to have somebody's shadow fall on you, you know what that means? You got to be close to them. If you're going to have somebody's shadow fall on you, then you've got to be close to that person. So we're seeing this here. He's talking about the shadow of the Almighty. Now, we all know that God will never leave us and never forsake us. I mean, we hear that time and time and time again, and that's one of my favorite verses of the Bible, is that he will never leave us and he will never forsake us. Because what a promise to hold on to, that everybody else might walk away and other people might give up on you. Remember, even Paul at the end of his life, he said, Demas hath forsaken me, only Luke is with me. I mean, you imagine that. That's the Apostle Paul, who was preaching at the churches and doing everything. He said, everybody else has left. He said, Luke is here with me, but you know who else was there with Paul? The Lord was. And it might feel like everybody else has forsaken you and walked away, but understand God is always right there. So we understand that God will never leave us and never forsake us. Now the question is, what about you? And what about me? Because I say we are all been guilty at some point or another of us forsaking the Lord. Because we think, I've got it figured out, I can do it my way, and I know exactly the next steps that I need to take. And then you know what happens is you start taking steps that way, and guess what you find out? You were supposed to go that way the whole time, so now it takes even longer for you to get right back. It reminds me a lot of times of a squirrel in the middle of the road, that if all they would do was just go to one side, everything would have been taken care of. But what does that squirrel do? Back and forth as you're driving down the road. And that's how we are a lot of times, is we're just running back and forth whenever we should just listen to God. Got out of the way, did what he wanted us to do, and everything would have been okay. But the presence of God is something that is always there with a believer, but a lot of times we'll be the ones that forsake it. You say, who did that? Adam and Eve. Look at Adam and Eve in the garden. You think that was the first time in Genesis chapter number 3 that God ever came down and walked in the cool of the day in the garden? I doubt it. I'd say God had come down there several times and walked with Adam and Eve. But you know what happened? What did he ask Adam? Adam, where art thou? Probably the first time Adam ever heard that question. And what happened was they decided that that tree was good for food and a desire to make one wise. So they took of the fruit, they ate, and because they wanted the fruit, they lost their fellowship with the Lord. There was now that separation that took place. You know, another one was Samson. Samson wanted pleasure. Samson chose to go with Delilah and be with Delilah. And we know that the Spirit of God came upon Samson. How else could Samson do the things that he was doing? And there's no other way other than the Spirit of God be with him. But he chose Delilah and he chose pleasure, and he ended up losing his power. It wasn't until he went out there and he couldn't fight the Philistines like he once did, and he's thrown into the bottom of the mill with his eyes gouged out, and he began to grind that grain down in the mill. That's when he realized that he had walked away from the Lord. Then you think about David. David, the man we just talked about this morning, this great king, even the testimony of David was a man after God's own heart who had a desire to serve God, had a desire to be with God. But yet even David in the book of 2 time that kings go forth to battle, David stayed back at Jerusalem, and guess what happened? Walks up to the top, and he looks out, and he sees Bathsheba, and he wanted Bathsheba, and guess what he lost? That baby. He lost that baby. Because he goes and he lies with Bathsheba, and Bathsheba is pregnant, and that she gives birth to that baby, and that baby doesn't live. You know what all of those men did? They were once in the presence of God, and they walked away from it. You think about the prodigal son dwelling in the Father's house, there with the Father. Everything was taken care of. I mean, he had to have had it made. They had servants there. They had everything. He probably had it made. But just one little ounce of freedom that he could see, he said, man, the far country's got to be better than the Father's house. And he goes out into the far country, and he wastes his substance in riotous living. He's living like the world, acting like the world. And guess what happened when all that inheritance ran out? So did, so did everybody else. And now he finds himself back to the far country, joins the far country, and now he's finding himself in a pig pen. The pig ate. And you know what? Finally, in the book of Luke, there it says he came to himself. He realized, man, it was much better back in walking through the store, and this parent, we've all been there. It was dragging that parent was dragging that child on the floor, like bringing him all the way through the store. Like that child was laying down, just gave up, and he was just dragging him through there. I think that's a lot of times how we are with the Lord. The Lord's just dragging us right along. We're sitting there kicking and screaming and fighting, thinking that we know the right way. Why don't we just trust the Father that He knows the right way? And I'll be honest with you, the most unhappy I've ever been was being out of the presence of the Lord. Trying to run away thinking I've got it all figured out. That was the most unhappy that I've ever been. But can I give you three things that the presence of God brings? Number one, it brings rest. And you can just write these down. We're not going to turn to all these. But it brings rest. If you go and you read Exodus chapter 33 and verse number 14, the presence of God brings rest. Number two, Psalm 16:11 brings joy. The presence of God brings joy. But then Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 through 7, God's presence brings peace. It brings peace. And I know you've all experienced those goosebumps that pop up at times. Sometimes that is the presence of God, I believe, with all my heart, making Himself real to you. And I'm not trying to be some fanatic, like crazy person. No, I think sometimes God just wants you to know He's right there with you. And He gives you that feeling that you can feel that God is right there. So God's presence brings joy, it brings rest, and it brings peace. But then number three, and we'll be done. Let's look at the protection here in Psalm 91. Let's look at the protection. Now, verse number 2 says this, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. Surely He shall deliver thee from the snare of a fowler and from the noisome pestilence. And here's really where I want to bring our attention to just for this last one for protection is verse number 4. The Bible says, He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and thy buckler. Now, thank God when we got saved, we got our own personal bodyguard. And that's the Lord Jesus Christ. He's there with us. Now, my refuge isn't found in man. You look here, look at what He says there in verse number 2. I will say of the Lord, He is. Not He was, not He will be, but that He is my refuge and my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. The reason a lot of us, we don't have the peace and we don't have all these different things that comes along with the presence of God and the protecting hand of God is because we're putting our trust in the wrong place. We're putting our trust in man. We're putting our trust in political offices. We're putting our trust in a pastoral office. We're putting our trust in somebody else, our spouse, our kids. And guess what's going to happen with everybody that is flesh and blood? We are all going to let somebody down. Every single one of us. I mean, you remember just back in 2024, whenever the election was going on, when Trump got elected, everybody thought everything's going to be okay. Look right now. You know what happened? People put their trust in man, and then you find out real quick, man will do what man's always done. Man will let you down. You see, I'm a lot more thankful that Trump's in office than Kamala Harris, okay? I'm there. So don't think that I just hate Trump and all these different things. No, that's not the case at all. But what I see is a lot of people, they put their faith and their hope in Trump, or they put their hope in Spanberger. They put their hope in all these different areas. They get let down, and then they're wondering where God is. Well, if you would have ever put your hope in God, you wouldn't be let down because God won't let you down. He is your refuge. He is your fortress. He is your strong tower. He is those things. But then, here's where I want to look, the protecting hand. Look at what happens here in verse number 4. He shall cover thee with His feathers, and under His wings shalt thou trust. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. Now, there's several times throughout the Bible that you'll see that God the Father is referred to as a hen. You say, well, how does that work? Well, I always wondered that as well. Like, it makes no sense to me. Now, the only hen that I knew was whenever we got chickens and that chicken chased me. That's the only hen I knew. And I never knew that their claws were that sharp until I took one down the back of my calf. And that chicken was a lot faster than what I thought chickens were. And I said, I'm going to make you some chicken nuggets, barbecue sauce, everything. You. But it talks about him being like a hen. Now, this website cracked me up, but it's the unitedpoultry.org, and I was just cracking up at that because I was wondering. I've never seen a hen do this, and all of the eggs that the hens laid for us was scrambled later on. They didn't hatch too often at our house. But I always wondered, what is this talking about? Whenever it talks about the hen gathering her chicks and talking about it even here, This is getting under his wings and under his feathers. I was wondering, what in the world does that mean? So I looked it up and was studying on it. Now, I'm just going to read you what this website said. It says, in our day, the hen has been degraded to an egg machine. And it has. Whenever we think about chickens, we're thinking literally about chicken nuggets, chicken legs, and scrambled eggs. Like those things, right? That's what we're thinking about when we think about chickens. But it says, in our day, the hen has been degraded to an egg machine. In previous eras, she embodied the essence of motherhood. In 1st century AD, the Greek historian praised the many ways in which the mother hens cherish and protect their chicks, dropping their wings for some to creep under and receiving with joyous and affectionate clucks others that mount upon their backs or run up to them from every direction. And though they flee from dogs and snakes, if they are frightened only for themselves, if their fright is for their children, they stand their ground and fight it out beyond their stream. But then it goes on to say this, and I cannot pronounce this name. I can't do it. But it's a Renaissance writer. That's as far as I can get. It's a weird name. And it said, describe that how at the first sign of a predator, mother hens will immediately gather their chicks. Listen to this. This is that website. Remember what we just read here in Psalm 91. It says, will gather their chicks under the shadow of her wings. And with the covering they put up such a very fierce defense, striking fear into their opponent in the midst of a frightful clamor, using both wings and beaks, they would rather die for their chicks than seek safety in flight. The same way with food, as the mother hen will go and find food to bring back to the chicks before she gets food for herself. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, look at what we're looking at here. Basically, you know what this mother hen is doing whenever she's facing, whether it be a dog or, and it goes on to tell a story about this chicken facing a dog. But you know what that hen's doing whenever those chicks run up underneath her and she stands her ground to face that enemy or that predator, whatever it is? If you're going to get to my hens, you're going to have to come through me. You're going to have to kill me. You're going to have me dead before you can ever get to them. Now, we put it into the context of what the Lord is saying here, and what the psalmist is saying here is that he gathers us under his wings. Meaning this, when the enemy comes looking, and the enemy will, the enemy comes to fight, and the enemy will. The enemy wants to kill you, and the enemy will. That he gathers us under his wings. And you know what he's saying to Satan? If you're going to get to them, you've got to come through me. And understand this evening, yes, Satan might have power. Satan might be great. And we mess up a lot of times when we think that Satan has no power. We think that Satan can't do those things. No, Satan can. How do you think we're here thousands of years later from Genesis chapter number 3 when they were living in a perfect world, in a perfect garden, and all those different things, and they fell? Because Satan is great. Satan is powerful. But thank God we have somebody that is more powerful and somebody that is greater than Satan that gathers us under his wings, that if Satan's ever going to get to us, if we're under his wings, guess who they got to go through? They got to go through the Lord. John chapter number 10 talks about that we are in our Father's hand, and if any man or no man can pluck thee out of thy Father's hand. Meaning if somebody is going to get to us, they've got to get us out of the hand of God, and that's impossible. That can't happen. Because then who has to die for us to be lost then? God would. And God can't. You want to know how we know? Because he already defeated death. He rose again the third day. He's never to be dead again. And that is the God that we serve. But also this, look with me at Romans chapter number 8 again. Let's run back to that chapter, Romans chapter number 8. And I want you to see this. Miss Rebecca, you can go ahead and come. Romans chapter number 8. Look at verse number 31. Romans 8 and verse number 31. The Bible says this, what shall we then say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? He that spared not his own son, but delivered him up for us all, how shall he not with him also freely give us all things? Who shall lay anything to the charge of God's elect? It is God that justifies. You know what that sounds a lot like to me, just that first part of saying that he's going to freely give us all things? Sounds like that mother hen that cared more about her chicks than she cared about herself. You know who cared more about us than he cared about himself? Jesus did. Look at what it says, verse 34. Who is he that condemneth? It is Christ that died, yea, rather that is risen again, who is even at the right hand of God, who also maketh intercession for us. What a privilege it is to have Jesus Christ praying for you and for me. making intercession for us. Verse 35, who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall tribulation or distress or persecution or famine or nakedness or peril or sword? It's all things that the enemy brings. And what did Paul just say? Who can separate us? Who shall separate us from the love of God? Nothing that the enemy brings. But look at verse 36. As it is written, for thy sake we are killed all the day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Nay, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him that loved us. For I am persuaded that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor height, nor depth, nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. And nothing that the world can throw, nothing that the enemy can throw at you will separate you from the love of the Lord. Now, here's the problem. Here's the thing that we all have to be aware of. God never leaves us. The danger is when we walk away from him. See, God has promised to protect us. God has promised to be there for us. The problem is when we walk outside of that protecting hand of God. I'm not talking about losing your salvation. I'm talking about doing what the prodigal son did and leave the father's house and think that it's better out here, that I know better, that I can go out, and then you find out real quick, man, I remember what it was like at the father's house. How could somebody who lost their salvation remember how good it was back at the father's house? No, it's because he was saved, and he realized that he had walked away, that he needed to come back. And if we're going to experience the benefits of dwelling with God, then we have to dwell with him. You can't expect to have the benefits of it if you're not willing to dwell with him. That's the problem a lot of us have. Is we're saved, and we think that everything should just be fine, everything should be good. I should get the benefits of dwelling with God just because I'm saved.
there, everything would have been fine, everything would have been protected. Sometimes God will still use that for your benefit to show you what you need in your life. God will use those whippings to chastise you, to bring you back, for you to realize you should have just been dwelling in His presence the whole time. And to dwell with God is much better than to dwell without Him. Ask the 3 Hebrew children in the fire. Ask Daniel in the den of lions. Ask the disciples there in the upper room when Jesus showed up. Scared for their life, but then Jesus showed up, and you know what they all had? Peace. Because Jesus was there. And He's there with you as well. His presence is there. That's a benefit that you get from dwelling with the Lord. It's much better to dwell with Him than to dwell without Him. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Don't forget, getting ready to have our business meeting following this. And again, you're more than welcome to stay even if you're not a member. But again, the members have the say whenever it comes to the business meeting. But thank you so much for being here. We'll pray, and you can go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, whatever you need to do. But then I know Keith wants to get going and go home, right, Keith? I'm just kidding, but we'll go ahead. Let's dismiss a prayer. Thank you again for being here tonight. Don't forget about that sign-up sheet that's back there for the First Responders Dinner next